If you are advertising and reaching users on their mobile devices through apps such as Twitter, Facebook, etc., this will impact you. Hey, welcome back to More Than Marketing. I'm your host, Arsha Mirsha. Big topic for you today. Apple's iOS 14.4 is being rolled out this quarter, and it has major implications for advertisers who are doing user acquisition or advertising otherwise on app-based platforms such as Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, LinkedIn, Twitter, right? If you are advertising and reaching users on their mobile devices through apps such as Twitter, Facebook, etc., this will impact you. I'm going to talk about what it is, what the potential impacts are, what you can do about it, and some predictions. Without further ado, let's jump in. So, what's happening? Apple is rolling out a new iOS operating system for their iPhone where all apps are going to have a prompt that says, do you allow this app to track you? Basically. If you're watching this on YouTube, you can see that here. If you are listening to this as a podcast, imagine you open an app, you've done this on your iPhone, and it says, this app wants to use your camera, or this app wants to send you push notifications, and you have the choice to allow or deny that. The same thing, the same prompt is going to come up, but it's going to say instead, do you allow this app to uh, track you and otherwise uh, use data from your activity on this app for whatever reason, and the app developer is going to be able to say, here's what we do with that data, as well as you, the user, are going to be able to go in and see exactly what they are collecting, right? So Facebook is kind of at the forefront of this. They've done a lot of webinars with their for their advertisers, and they've rolled out new policies and regulations and features and what have you to not combat this, but to prepare for this really. And their Facebook is really kind of upset with Apple because this is going to impact the way that targeting works on Facebook, as well as the data that you, the advertiser, are going to be able to get back from apps like Facebook. I'm going to use Facebook a lot. They're kind of at the forefront of this, so you can interchange Facebook with Instagram, obviously, but also TikTok and Twitter and LinkedIn and others. So that's what's happening. Users are going to update their iPhones. They're going to buy new iPhones. Going to have iOS 14.4 on it, and they're going to be able to opt in or out of tracking on each app that they use on their phone. Right now, we're guesstimating that maybe 30% of people opt in. That means 70% of people opt out, and some statistics for you. So that is just a hypothesis. We don't know what it's going to be, but if you are in the US or advertising in the US, or that's primarily where your business is, 61% of people in the US have an iOS, have an iPhone, versus about 39% have an Android. Globally, those numbers are very different. Globally, it's 72% of people have an Android, and only 26% or 27% of people have an iPhone. So if you're globally, this is kind of a less of an impact for you. If you're in the US, much bigger impact. So what does it mean? Again, you're going to have less data. What's happening is things like events are being limited, and attribution windows are being limited, and events and conversion data is being aggregated. This is to help aid the user's privacy. So, for instance, an extreme example, today you're able to say, oh, I got a conversion. It was John Doe, right, or Jane Smith. Uh, I got it at this time, and then Facebook, I see the Facebook event, and I can tie that Facebook event back to this ad, and this ad says, is about this pain point. So now you know that Jane Smith has this pain point, right? That's kind of an extreme example, but that's the idea. Is Facebook is now going to aggregate events, so it's going to be harder for you to analyze the data, generally speaking, especially if you're in a low event, low conversion kind of environment like that. If you only post, I don't know, 3 to 7 conversions a week, versus 70 or 7,000 conversions a week, you're going to have even less data to work with, right? So what's changing? I'll give you a quick rundown and then we will go into details of each and action steps for you as well. So the first thing is attribution windows. If you're used to a 28-day click attribution window, it will be no longer. It is going down to a 7-day attribution window. So if you have a longer sales cycle and you have people who are clicking your ads, but they're not taking a certain action or the action that you want for more than 7 days, that is no longer, that conversion or event is no longer going to show up in Facebook's platform. I think that it will still show up. I'm still learning about this one because I think the event will still show up, but it just won't be attributed to an ad. Um, and so that's going to hurt your analysis, maybe your optimization as well. And I'm still looking into like why this is, like why would the event still show up or will it show up? I don't know. But I think it might be akin to what Safari did, another Apple product, obviously, their browser, and Firefox as well, where they limited all cookies uh, down to 7-day lifespan. So maybe that's the same thing here. Maybe they're doing that, and I just haven't seen it or they haven't published it. And so like they're providing a temporary ID or something like that. I don't know. And that temporary ID expires in 7 days. The next thing is domain verification. This is extremely important for anyone who's using the Facebook Pixel, which is pretty much everyone. If you don't verify your domain, your ads will be shut off. Now, luckily, this is really easy to do. It's akin to uh, Google Search Console verification, where you change a DNS record or upload a text file to the root of your domain, and then it verifies your domain and kind of adds that legitimacy to your ad account. The next thing that's changing are conversions and events at large, and basically anyone who opts out of the ATT prompt, the tracking prompt, will have their conversions be on a delay back to Facebook, 24 to 48 hour delay. So anyone who is kind of doing real-time reporting or analysis or whatever, you're going to want to wait basically and look back, for longer time periods, like a week or something like that, and even start your analysis 2 days behind to make sure all the events and attributions such as has been captured. On top of that, conversions and events are going to be aggregated. So again, I don't think this is not good for like low event environments because you're just going to have less and less data. It's going to be less granular and make it harder to do deep analysis. Which you know there's pros and cons there because if you're doing if you have an N of 2 and you're making decisions based on that, it's probably not a good thing anyway. Okay, so also you're only going to be able to use 8 events total. I'll go into deep detail about this, but you're going to be limited to 8 events, and you're going to have to prioritize them in what order you want Facebook to collect them. I'll go into detail on that one later. And then the last kind of overview piece here is audience insights. Anyone who opts out of the ATT prompt will be blocked from demographic data. So that's going to make it a little harder to see, who your target audience is, and you're still going to be able to see it, but it's going to be kind of skewed to the people who opt in and to Android users, right? So that, I guess, and towards desktop as well. That's interesting because I think people will still use that data, but they may forget that it's kind of skewed now. You're looking through a opaque lens, so to speak. Um, you know, that's something to keep track of. So that's an overview. Attribution windows are changing. You need to verify your domain. Conversions and events are going to be delayed, aggregated, and limited. And audience insights is going to be opaque now. Let's jump into some action steps. One of the action steps here is to download your historical data so you can use that to analyze offline off of Facebook, because Facebook is going to start changing their attribution windows, no longer with a 28-day attribution exists, for example, right? Everything's going to 7 and 1, I believe. So you're going to need to download your historical data so that you can analyze that later, because that's going to be going away. Another action step for you is to audit and prioritize your custom events. If you are running the Facebook pixel, you're going to be limited to 8 events only. Now, if you're running like a basic kind of lead gen campaign or e-commerce program, you're probably going to be okay with just 8 events. Like, let's use e-commerce for example. You know, um, your 8 events will probably be purchase, add payment info, add to cart, add to wish list, a view product, lead, view content. Okay, that's cool. So you can live with 8 events. You will need to prioritize them. That means you have to go into Facebook's event manager and set the priority of them. There's some reason for that. It's Facebook is going to say, if I can't collect certain data, that I'm going to opt to collect the more prioritized data first. Uh, if you have a complex funnel and you have lots of brands or lots of um, websites or lots of actions for your users to take, and you're used to having a lot of events to use for optimization or reporting or whatever, or analysis, you're limited to 8 now, unfortunately. Another thing you're going to need to do is verify your domain. So you're going to have to add a DNS record or a text file to verify that your top level domain is in fact yours, and then tie that to your ad platform. Else, your ads are going to be shut off on Facebook, right? A really big one is automated rules. If you're using automated rules in Facebook, you're going to want to audit them, right? Because if they're running off of some data that's no longer going to be there, they're going to start going haywire, going nuts. So you're going to want to audit them and choose wisely what you run on. We're suggesting and to our clients, and what we're doing for our clients is removing a lot of those automated rules and going back to good old manual days, right? To see what happens. And we're doing this over the course of the next couple months, using that time to analyze what can we run with automated rules and what is not going to work anymore. All in all, I hope my tone is not kind of here to panic, here to scare you. You know, change is the only constant, right? We kind of knew this was coming, and this is just the start of it. User privacy is a big deal, especially with kind of the blue sweep in Congress and White House and what have you. It's likely that we're going to see more regulation on big tech, especially in the realm of privacy, and that's generally a good thing for users. Users should have their privacy in control. They should be in control of their privacy, and big tech shouldn't, just be kind of manipulating or overreaching their power to uh, monetize users, so to speak. At the same time, on the other side of the coin is that, you know, I think what you're going to see happen. Well, we'll see. This is now I'm kind of in the predictions, but if you imagine you're on Facebook and you're getting ads for things that you don't care about, right? You're not going to want that. You want personalized ads. You want ads for things that speak to you, for products and services that you need, that you're in the market for, right? Uh, at least that's what I want for me personally. I don't want ads for things that don't interest me, because that's a waste of my time, right? I've learned a lot about a lot of new products and services through ads, and I like that. Maybe I'm biased, but that's how I feel, right? But generally, don't panic. I mean, this is a great time to kind of focus on the things that you can control, such as your user experience and your creative. Um, I would also say, remember that there was a time before Facebook and all of the, you know, nitty-gritty data that we could dig into and analyze, right? Algorithms and cookies didn't exist 20 years ago. Maybe cookies did, but you get the idea, right? There was a time where we didn't have all this data and all this machine learning and what have you. And this is just a step kind of back a little bit towards that. Not a big deal. Things still work. If you have a good brand, if you care about your user, you have a good user journey, you should be fine, you know? You may not have all the granular detail to know exactly which ad is working at which time of day, but there was a time where you didn't have that either, right? So, some predictions for you because this is kind of the fun part. Facebook isn't the only app that's going to require users to opt into the tracking prompt. Obviously, it's going to be every single app. And the more trusted the app is, the higher the opt-in rate is going to be. Also, think about the user's demographics, right? So Reddit has millions of users, of course, but there's a certain subset of Reddit that's like, hey, very privacy minded and very kind of attuned to this kind of technology, and so they're going to opt out. Similarly, Facebook is no stranger to controversy, especially as it pertains to privacy. So we could see lower opt-in rates there. At the same time, you have kind of an older generation relatively to other apps such as TikTok and Snapchat. On Facebook, the generation is a little bit older, and they may just go look at that prompt and click one of the buttons and not know which one it is, and so you may see higher. So we'll see. We'll see. That one is no prediction there, but I will predict that this is going to be like a major issue for the next 6 to 12 months. Many advertisers are not going to be able to weather the storm. Their maybe budgets are too low. They don't have room for error, and Facebook's tracking is not going to be or targeting is not going to be favorable to them, and it's going to hurt. So as a result, you could see advertisers stop ads and move those dollars elsewhere. And if that happens, CPMs will fall and there will be lower competition. And that may actually offset the negative impact of Facebook's targeting. It's very possible that that happens. We kind of saw that at the beginning of the coronavirus in March of 2020, March and April, where lots of advertisers left the auction, the Facebook auction in particular here, and you saw that if you're still in the auction, your CPMs dropped pretty dramatically to the tune of 25%, and that put all your downstream metrics got better as a result, right? That's going to hurt Facebook's revenue. So shareholders beware. This is not financial advice. Something to consider. Right? Uh, we're going to see new ad, placements and formats be introduced and come out. New ad platforms as well, I imagine. Right? Pinterest has been doing some really interesting updates to their self-serve ad platform and the way the users experience those ads as well. Most advertisers, they're going to, need to diversify, right? YouTube is right now kind of a Wild Wild West-ish area, and CPMs over there are going to triple over the next 3 years. That's our prediction. First-party data is going to become more and more important. You're already hearing this as it pertains to third-party cookies going away on Chrome browser in the next 2 years, and uh, it's going to become kind of mission critical to own your user's data, particularly email address, most likely is, and having some kind of experience, web app experience that incentivizes them or otherwise encourages the user to sign up with you and trade their email address for some kind of value, so to speak. You're going to want that because first party data is going to become more and more important as third party data starts to be restricted, shut down, and even go away. And if that happens, platforms like Google and Apple and other big tech stocks are going to battle for the future of advertising, tracking, and targeting. Cookies are going to be obsolete. Trade Desk is they have a unified ID 2.0 type thing. So that's going to become the standard. This is our projection, right? Trade Desk will not monetize it, but they're going to be kind of the go-to platform for programmatic media buying, and that the strength of the universal ID is going to be that unique positioning in in their uh, in their platform, in their media buying, in CTV and OTT space as well, connected TV and over the top, for streaming, advertising on streaming platforms. If you're not familiar, so again, not stock advice, not financial advice. These are public companies that we are talking about, but this is just what we see happening in the industry. And these are our predictions. And, as we saw with GDPR, it was and CCPA, they were really big deals when they came out, and things have kind of normalized to a new standard, to a new level, and I think that's similar to what you're going to see here with iOS 14. One way or another, we're on a roller coaster. This is an industry that changes faster than your underwear. Hopefully, your underwear changes really quickly, and buckle up because this is just the beginning. It's fun, change is the only constant, like I said. And hopefully, this was a helpful podcast. If it was, share with a friend, like it, comment. Let me know what you're doing. What are you seeing, right? What are you planning on doing? We'd love to talk about this kind of stuff. We'll share our insights as well. I have, and we'll put in the show notes a link to this PDF. And if you're on YouTube, you can just read the URL and type it in if you like, but I'll give it to you there. And thank you for listening. Hope this is not a big deal for you and you can just go on your merry day and everything is normal and your ad campaigns don't suffer. But if they do, you're not alone. Thanks for listening. Take care.